Hey everybody, Mo here, and welcome to another deck guide for dummies, and this one's going to be on Bannerman. So, I know what you're all thinking. Yes, this video is probably going to be only 5 minutes long. So, Bannerman. In case you haven't heard of this deck before, uh, Bannerman is a very simple, very straightforward, just creature mid-rangey deck. The idea behind this deck is you just play a creature on every single turn to apply pressure every round, and then you eventually just close the game out with a turn 4 Bannerman, or if you have to go to turn 6 for whatever reason because you did something wrong, you just play Cithria. So this deck has been the boogeyman of tournaments for literal weeks. Like every single tournament, none of your regions can overlap, so you have to bring a deck from each region, and every single person plays Bannerman. Not every single person, but every single person that does well brings Bannerman for their Demacia deck. Because not only is it just the strongest Demacian deck, but it's so strong that you don't even need another region. So that frees up an entire region for you and unlocks more region combos. On top of that, when Bannerman first became a thing, and first got popularized, I believe, by BBG, the rank 1 North American player, it just completely dominated ladder to the point of if you weren't playing Bannerman, just get out the way. Now there's a little bit more tech cards and tech decks to go ahead and handle it. We've had decks like Karina Control come out. We've had decks like War Mother, specifically tech for Bannerman decks. Stuff like that. A bunch of Ezreal decks have come out. So it's a lot less like dominant. So it's not like 50% of the ladder right now, but it's still a very, very high percentage. And if I would recommend a deck for anyone to use to climb, people always ask me, what decks should I use to climb with? What deck should I use? I always recommend either Draven Burn or this deck. Both decks are fairly simple, and both decks punish opponents if they have a slow opener or just are playing a really, really bad or slow deck. So, generally, here's a couple tips to help you win your Bannerman matchups if for some whatever reason you don't know how to turn your monitor on and just click around on the screen. So if you're going second, you can try and get a Bright Steel Protector and give Barrier to your little 1-mana challenger dude. That gives you a really good pull on turn 2. So if they played a turn 1 unit, you just get a free kill there, or it stops them from playing their turn 2 unit totally sometimes. It's just a very nice power play. It really helps you in your board presence and really helps you control the board a little bit early on. If you're thinking about attacking and the attack would leave you with only like 1 to 2 creatures left, or maybe it's just a lot of even trades across the board, you just need your creatures to be a little bit bigger, consider not making the attack. So that way you get maximum value out of your Bannerman the very next turn, or out of the Bannerman whenever you play it in 2 turns. Because what's an even trade now, if you play Bannerman and buff all your creatures +1/+1, is just a complete board wipe for you next turn, next time you attack. If you're playing against a deck that plays a lot of chump blockers like spider decks or very small units where they're just trying to not die to you, try to keep Fiora alive. Try to find a Fiora, keep her alive. You probably won't win with a Fiora win condition, but it can definitely be a threat, and it could force your opponent to play scared and make mistakes if they think, oh, well, I just played Brood Awakening into this guy's Fiora, I have to spend multiple kill spells on it, or I have to spend the super important spell on this Fiora. Then you go, boom, now I'm slamming down a Draven in 2 turns. Boom, I'm following it up with the Cithria. And you've used all of your spells trying to kill this Fiora because you're afraid of the Fiora win condition. When another way to answer the small chump block spiders is, again, Cithria, since she gives all of your units fearsome. Cithria herself doesn't get the fearsome, but if you attack with 3 other units, those units get both +1/+1 and fearsome, so they're basically unblockable. That's going to be a lot of damage getting through at the top end. Don't be greedy against decks with Ruination unless you have Deny. I see it multiple times. Players say, oh, I have lethal, but I have the Cithria just for extra damage or something. Nothing crazy. Like, you don't need to do that, guys. Just get in for 10 damage. I promise you, 10 damage is fine. just get in for fine damage. Unless you have Deny in your hand, then you can be as greedy as you want. Typically, I like to mulligan for cheap units. That way you can have creatures play on every single turn leading up to your Bannerman, and you get maximum value out of your Bannerman on turn 4. And then you go Garen turn 5, Cithria turn 6, and you just curve out perfectly and dominate whoever you're playing against. So, speaking of mulligans, here's the portion of the video that everyone comes for, the mulligan guide. As always, I'll list a general mulligan guide for every S and A tier deck at the moment, And I'll also be posting a more in-depth matchup guide in my Discord, and you can join my Discord by clicking on the link in the description below. For the first deck, it's going to be Karina Control. Now you'll notice that the mulligans overall in every single deck is going to be very straightforward because like I said in the beginning of this video, this deck is very simple and very linear. You basically want to have the same game plan every single game, which is just play creatures, hit your opponent, win the game. So because your deck is so linear, you don't really have to mulligan too crazily. Your goal is still the same in every single game. It's just kill your opponent with creature damage. It's just you might want a couple different tech cards depending on whatever matchup you're in. For instance, if you're playing against a control deck, you're going to want a specific card versus if you're playing against another mid-range deck. So for the most part, all of these mulligans will be almost the same, minus one or two cards. So the first deck is going to be Karina Control. For this, you're going to want a War Chef, a Garen, a Deny, and a Bannerman. You don't really want one drop against Shadow Isle decks because they typically run Vile Feast, and they'll probably just Vile Feast your unit before you can Bannerman. So, I mean, it's nice to have it, but I would much rather I'd mulligan the one drop away to try and find a Deny, because Deny is really what's going to help you win the game on turn 6 or 7. Spooky Karma, same thing. You're going to want War Chef, Garen, Deny, Bannerman. In the mirror match, you're going to want any 1, 2, and 3 cost unit, a Bannerman, and then you're going to want a barrier or two. Barriers really help you trade in combat. Combat tricks are always nice. For Spider aggro, you're going to want Fiora, Laurent Prodigy, War Chefs, and Bannerman. You just want big booty guys to block the spiders. For elusives, you're going to want any challenger unit, a Purify Bannerman. Challenge units are the only way you win this matchup because otherwise you can't block any of their creatures, and Purify to make their buffed elusive creatures just normal 2/2s. Draven discard, you're going to want War Chest, Laurent Prodigy, and Bannerman. Again, just big booty people to block really well for the early turn so you don't die. For your Freljord Ezreal combo deck, this one you can get the one drop in because they're not playing Vile Feast. So you're going to want one drop, War Chef, Garen, Bannerman. Deny doesn't really do too much in this matchup since almost every one of the cards you care about is burst speed anyways. For instance, Harsh Winds is burst speed, the 2-mana creature that Frostbite is burst speed, any Frostbite is really burst speed. So because of that, you kind of just want creatures. You just want to make them big and try and hit them really hard. For Spooky Ezreal, you don't want the one drop here because he is playing Shadow Isle, so he's playing Drains. You're just going to want War Chef, Bannerman, Garen, and this deck you are going to want a couple of barriers to protect your creatures, and the same goes for Deny, just to protect your creatures. The Deny is more for Ruination, barriers are more for things like Grasp of the Undying. For War Mothers, you're just going to want War Chefs, Bannerman, Garen, Deny, barriers for the same reason. You're going to want barriers for the things like Drains, Grasp of the Undying's Withering Wails, and then you're just going to want to Deny the Ruination. Heimerdinger Control, this one, you can have the one drop. You want to want War Chef, you want Bannerman, Garen, and Deny. You don't care too much about barriers in this comp because they don't play too many direct damage spells. The only big direct damage spell that you care about is going to be Thermogen, which if they do Thermogen your Garen, then you're going to want barrier, but by turn 5, I want to keep barrier in my opening hand. And for Ezreal Karma, you're just going to want a 1-drop, War Chef, Bannerman, Garen, Deny. Again, you just want to curve out all your creatures every single turn, and then you're going to want to have that Deny, maybe one barrier as just a little fail-safe plan. So that's going to be it for this video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. I've been putting a lot of work into my stream. I put a lot of work in my Discord. Discord's completely revamped. So make sure you guys go and follow me on Twitch. I stream on there basically daily now, especially during this epidemic. Basically daily. I do tournaments on the weekends, fun streams, viewer streams, all that good stuff. So go follow me on there, subscribe here. I put out videos at least twice a week. Make sure to join the Discord below so that way you get all of the fun, full-on deck guides for every deck that I post a video about. And I'll see you guys in the next video.